Good to see you. Good afternoon, everybody. Michael Beschloss, this is unprecedented, especially 3 months and change before the election. We haven't yet seen a strong challenge to Vice President Harris for the Democratic nomination. It seems to me like there's limited upside to doing so, because if you think that this is a too tough situation to go up against Trump and win, if you challenge Harris and you lose, then all your chances might be out because you might be seen as being unloyal by the party. But if you think she can win, same thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. This is, just as you were saying, John, this is a situation where we haven't seen a president, pull out of a race this close to a party convention. LBJ in 1968, Harry Truman in 1952, they both did in March. So this is something we haven't seen before. So if you were to combine that with all this talk about an open primary or an open convention or some device to have people run against each other, the frank thing is the leaders of the Democratic Party, most of them think it is too late, and it doesn't exactly look as if a lot of Democratic challengers are lining up to run against Kamala Harris.
Yes, and Larry Sabato, I've seen polling that suggests a lot of the electorate, especially independents, still don't have a strong feeling about Vice President Harris. So I guess the race is on, both from Harris's side and from the Trump campaign, to define her. How do you think that plays out? And is that unusual for people not to have a clear, strong feeling about a vice president after about 4 years?
Well, as I think Michael would agree, vice presidents often aren't well known. And you don't get to know them until they either step up to the presidency or are in position to step up. So it's really not that unusual that people don't know much about her. And actually, that's a plus for her. She will get to define herself if she moves quickly and her party moves quickly. They'll move quickly in the sense that in 4 weeks, she's the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party. But she's got a big card to play here, and that's the choice of vice president. That will help to define her. And with a balanced ticket, a balance to her, and a nominee from a state that has a substantial number of electoral votes, she'll be in a good position going forward.
Brian, it's interesting to look at the money, and you can maybe talk more about this, but the big criticism of this whole process is that it feels like sort of the Democratic base or voters didn't get to weigh in on this outcome, where it looks like she'll probably end up taking over the candidacy. But we do have sort of the vote of the purse, and there are a lot of small dollar donations flowing in from the moment that she became the presumptive nominee. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, since Joe Biden dropped out of the race and endorsed the vice president, the Act Blue website, which is, of course, the site that raises money for the Democrats, has raised north of $96 million. I've got the live tracker right in front of me. We're about up to $97 million as I sit here. So that's just from the small dollar donor side. There clearly is a major enthusiasm bump here for the Democratic Party at large since the moves on Sunday by the president in supporting the vice president as a candidate for the White House, and it's showing in fundraising. And it's not just with small dollar either, right? There are big money donors who were sitting on the sidelines who told me over the last 24 hours they're coming home, essentially, and they're coming home to support Harris as a nominee as a candidate for president.
Yeah, I suppose the question, and Maya, I'll direct it to you, is then what does that tell us about her? I'm going to just jump ahead to the November electability, because the potential for this going to some kind of open process, you'd still have to pick who's in that open process, and I'm not sure there's a mechanism by which to do so.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, there are no challengers coming up against the vice president for the nomination. That's it. I mean, unless somebody steps forward and says they are going to run some sort of primary campaign from now into the convention against the vice president. Unless that happens, there's no sights here as to this being some sort of challenge at the convention. And the other point I want to make there on that is that the vice president now controls $95 million at least worth of campaign cash since the endorsement by Biden. So if you're going to go up against her and you don't have the money, that might not be such a great idea. And I think a lot of people who might be considering it are thinking that as well.
Maya, please feel free to weigh in on that, Maya Rupert. But also it occurs to me, even though many people are saying this is going to be an open and transparent process, there have already been a lot of major endorsers of Vice President Harris. And this is a year when things like abortion, women's rights have come to the fore. She is vice president already. It seems like there's a danger, perhaps, in the base's enthusiasm if you look like you're trying too hard to overlook a Vice President Harris in this process with your openness, no?
Absolutely. I think what we're seeing is that momentum is building around her. There is this outpouring of grassroots support, and there's this outpouring of endorsements. I think that the DNC has committed to an open and fair and transparent process, but this is the impact, I think, of that process, right? What we're seeing is people are coming forward and endorsing her. It doesn't seem that there is a strong candidate that's coming out against her. And I think what that shows is really the strength and momentum of her as a candidate or as a nominee and a candidate going into November. And I think that should show us everything that I think Democrats have been looking for. The excitement, the shift, this enthusiasm should really be, and I think it has been. I think it has changed the entire tenor of this race. And what we're seeing is people who are really looking forward at this point to November.